Evening, everybody. It's 5:55 on this Tuesday, the first trading day of the year, January 2nd. Okay, was an interesting day, and from my perspective, this is exactly the best example of what happens when you have a narrow market being pulled up by a limited number of stocks. You got one company downgraded today. And frankly, as bad as it wasn't even the worst decliner of the day. Although, you have to look at it and realize that it wasn't that long ago, literally just multiple weeks, when this stock was making a new all time high at 199.62. Now, it closed yesterday at 192.53, and today it was as low as 183.89. And the last I have on it, because it's still trading, is 185 and a half, and that's down 703. That's 3.65%. That's a huge move for a simple downgrade, but it does illustrate a point. Not only was it down hard, but it was not down hard on big volume. So, what you have to understand about these stocks, and all stocks really, is that you don't need massive sellers. All you need is an absence of buyers. The volume on the stock so far today is, uh, let's see, is 83 million. Right before the close, I was looking at it and it was about 57, 58 million. Average daily volume in this name on a 90-day look going backwards is 57 million shares. So it wasn't even that big a deal. And frankly, for a stock that was 199.62 as recently as December 14th, this move has been pretty excessive. Um, you know, Even yesterday's close at 192.53 was already down 3.5%. And basically, it doubled that today. So I can't be any more explicit than I already have. This has been one of those companies. Everybody that I heard, not everybody, but a lot of people that I heard on CNBC and Fox Business News and even Bloomberg TV today, they hate it. Oh yeah, it's 5 quarters without any growth, and the downgrade at Barclays was centered around the lack of sales, not only for the 15 here around the world and specifically in China. What was interesting was that all of a sudden everybody is parroting the story that's been out there for several quarters. Let's just call it 6 months. But now they all hate it. And so, you know, if they hate another one, you'll see the same thing happen. What I think, though, is that as big as this company is, you're going to see a change. I know I wouldn't make the trade um, because I just wouldn't. But I think a paired trade here of long Microsoft, short Apple, makes a lot of sense. Microsoft has a huge profit margin, and they're not hardware related. So that's just my take on it. In any event, the Dow was up 25 bucks. It was the only index that was up. And Advanced declines there were 14 to 13 to the downside. The big loser, of course, was the NASDAQ. It had been down about 325 and had a last minute rally towards the end of the day, the last 15, 20 minutes. And it only closed down 245.41. That's 1.63. Um, the S&P, which was down about 50 at one point, finished down 27. That was a big rally, so 0.57 there. The Russell, which you would have thought might have picked up a little bit of the interest here, was down 14.28, which is only zero point 0.7. So for an index that has been one of the excellent performers in comparison for the last, I don't know, let's just call it 5 of the last 10 days. That's really not much of a give back. And transportation's down 124.08 or 0.78, really not terrible. Market internals on the NASDAQ were 4 to 3 to the downside. Volume was back a little bit over average. I think we did 5.8 billion today, so not as big as the huge days from last week, but bigger than the 5.1, 5.2 that we've seen lately. The chart on the screen is the oil. This was without a question the biggest disappointment of the day. Besides the fact that the inventories showed a draw of 6.9 million barrels late last week, this has continued to move down. Now, it popped up this morning, got as high as 73.64 and closed over $3 lower than that and on the low. And the move down these are dailies, the move down with the open interest down is long liquidation, and that does not speak well for energy. What it also doesn't speak well for is a booming economy without any slowdown coming. So you have that. Okay, so the biggest loser in the mail, let me just give you the sectors. On the downside, we had let me just take a quick look. On the downside today, we had air and cruise lines, infrastructure, work from home, retail, pot, metals. Let me just see if there are any more. Yeah, metals, AI also down, and defense. And of course, the mega caps were down. On the upside, we had, let's just see, we had biopharma, which I really am liking. I'll get to that in a minute. The food supply chain companies, which are about as defensive as it gets, and energy, um, even though we had that big reversal in the oil, a lot of the oil stocks actually did better than I would have expected. And the financials were slightly higher. Up the XLF was up 17 cents, but those were all literally up on the day. So, what do I like here? Pretty simple. Um, Teva. Teva had a court ruling in their favor over a company, CORT. Let me just get you the name of that one. CORT. That is Corcept Therapeutics, and it was a patent infringement case. I'm sure that it's not over, but CORT had closed at 32.85. It got as low as 22. The last is 24.16. That's down 832 or 26%. Teva has been up recently, pretty nicely actually, from about 8.5 to about well, closed 1061 on Friday. Today was as high only as 1084, but on a percentage basis, that was still a nice move off those lows. The last is 1065, up just 24 cents, but that is 2.3%. In the mega caps, the only one that was worse than Apple was Netflix. It closed 461. Pardon me, 461 was the low. The close was 468.70, and that was down 18.18. That's actually come back a little since the New York close. The New York close was down about 23. On the biotech side, we had Moderna. Moderna, it's been such a COVID related company that it's hard to judge, especially since the COVID vaccine was the first vaccine that the company ever had in its history that was not a failure. So in 21, at the height of COVID and the Moderna vaccine, we were 497. In November, just a month and a half ago, it was 62.55. Today it closed 112.85. That's up 13.35 or 13.4% on the upgrade from Oppenheimer. Another one that moved, we were in it a couple of weeks ago, was Pfizer. Pfizer had those earnings and it had this huge drop and it had a sell off from the middle of August from almost 38, and it looked like it bottomed around the 25.76 area. That's about where we bought it. We bought the options and we bought the stock. We bought the stock for the stocks for total return because the dividend was pretty hefty there too. So we did that, and it closed today 29.80. That was up $1 or 3.5%. So nice action there. Now the reason that I like the biotechs, because if you haven't noticed, there's a home run stock in there every single day, and unless you know the business well and can keep up on it, which is practically a full time job, I would be probably looking at the IBB, which is the one of the ETFs for it. There was another one today, called Longboard. I didn't see any actual news on it. LBPH is the symbol for it. It's only been around for a couple of years. The high on it was 1895 and the low was 270. It closed the day on Friday down around $6.03. Today, the low on it was 1620, the high 27 and a half, the last $16.10, and that 1610 is up $20.07 or 333. Healthcare, biotech, people go to hide there. It's a very defensive industry like healthcare that we see people looking at, and as I said, there's a home run in that business every single day. And today in my sector, I keep 10 stocks. Of those 10 stocks, 9 of them were up. Only one of them was down, and it was only down 1%. And the gainers are up 3.5, 3.6, 270, 345, 4.4, and IBB up 1.91%. So, that makes it an interesting place to stay. Okay, as far as the other futures, just so that we have a clear image of what it looked like today, we had the grains down. We're in the wheat. It was down 21 today, which is kind of annoying. The option was only down, I think, a nickel. The As I said, the oil had been as high as 73.64, and finished at that 70.38. It is open again right now. It's up 15 cents. Gold was up $1.60, but it too had been much higher. When it closed at 2073 and 40, it had been up to 2088. So it was $15 or $16 up. Closed up only a dollar and change, and now it's down 6. The silver is down 8 cents. The copper is down less than a penny. Stock futures are basically unchanged. It's too early to really see anything there. But the bonds were down 1 1/8 today. They're up 3 ticks, which is less than an eighth of a point. And so higher interest rates tend to be supportive of the dollar. The dollar closed 101.89, and that was up 86 cents. Bitcoin was up as high as 47,105 and closed the day at 45,330. That was up 28.45. And as I said, the dollar was up and the bonds were down. All right, folks, I'll be back first thing in the morning. Hope you had a good start to the new year today.